Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, titled Contents of the Gita Summarized, verse 70. Apuryamanam achala pratistam samudram apa pravisanti advat tadav kamayam pravisanti sarve sasanti mapnoti nakama kamim. Apuryamanam achala pratistam samudram apam pravisanti advat tadvat kamayam pravisanti sarve sasanti apnoti nakama kamim. Word by word meaning. Apuryamanam, always being filled. Achala pratistam, steadily situated. Samudram, the ocean. Apa, waters. Pravisanti, enter. Yadvat, as. Tadvat, so. Kama, desires. Yam, unto whom. Pravisanti, enter. Sarve, all. So, that person. Santim, peace. Apnoti, achieves. No, not. Kama Kami, one who desires to fulfill desires. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like rivers into the ocean, which is being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purport by His Divine Grace. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit or its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclination for material sense gratification, although desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruitive workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after the mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ralita Sri Visakha Vitamsha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak about this such a powerful verse. This verse actually talks about how to attain happiness, and happiness doesn't come without attaining peace. And Krishna here gives the example of how to attain peace. And we all are searching for peace in our lives. And this verse, Krishna is giving various different examples. The examples are not just given by our acharyas. Even Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is so merciful that he is stooping down to give Arjuna the examples which can lead him to understand this incredible spiritual text, Bhagavad Gita. In 58, Krishna gave the example of tortoise, how tortoise, restrict all his senses inside the shell. And there he gave the example of this natural phenomena of a tortoise. In 67, 2.67, Krishna gave the example of boat and wind. And now in 2.70, Krishna is giving another natural example, the example of the ocean and river. Say you take a glass of water and you put it on a carpet. If you don't really dry it correctly, the carpet is going to grow mold. A bucket of water in a hardwood floor would lead to a lot of problems, and you will have inspection issues. Whenever a bucket of water is put in the house, it creates havoc. Likewise, when there is a lot of rain, these rivers overflow, and people are hankering or not getting drinking water. But when rain comes and we have powered the soil with so much of fertilizer and chemicals, that this water, when it erupts in the river, it is not drinkable. It is totally poisonous. And you may be hearing every time there is rain in this place of New Jersey, there is flash flood. Single 5 minutes of rain leads to flash flood. So there is flooding everywhere, whether it is the hardwood floor or the carpet or even the big rivers. But have you ever heard of flooding in an ocean? You haven't, right? Because flooding in an ocean never happens. Because ocean can take any amount of water. Ocean is still. Ocean is composed. Ocean is at peace. But rivers, the flash floods, the hardwood floors, they have a lot of conditioning. We have a lot of conditioning in our lives. But what Krishna is giving the example here is, we have to make our lives and our desires. The desires are compared with, the gushing of the water from the rivers by Krishna. And Supreme Personality of Godhead is saying, whenever there is a little bit of overflow, the desires go haywire. The desires interact. The desire crisscross. And then we lose control. And here Krishna is saying, in order to draw peace, in order to achieve peace, we have to satisfy our desire, or we have to dovetail our desires in a slightly different way. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So here ocean is compared with a steady Krishna conscious individual. And ocean never gets flooded. And Krishna, in the prior verses, gives the example of tortoise in 58 and boat and wind in 67. These are all natural examples. And now Krishna is giving another natural example. See how much mercy Krishna has, how much time Krishna is spending in making Arjuna understand. And from there, if we can take a little bit from his lotus mouth about these principles, we would gain a lot of peace. And there is no happiness without peace. So this verse is such a beautiful and fascinating verse by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ocean and river. And the comparisons are very distinct. And this ocean example is just not compared here. And there are many references in Srimad Bhagavatam where Maharani Kunti and Krishna are interacting. And there are comparison of Krishna as the ocean. So Maharani Kunti is saying, O Krishna, O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn onto you without being diverted to anyone else. So here Krishna is compared with the ocean. Maharani Kunti says that give me so much of suffering that I always think about you. People in this age are craving to get happiness, craving to ask to satisfy our desires. But here, Maharani Kunti is saying, I need to constantly be drawn onto you. Let me be the river by which I constantly become drawn into you, the ocean. So this ocean example, which Krishna is giving, which is very phenomenal, has to be, internalized in our life as to Krishna or Krishna consciousness is compared with ocean. And when we are in ocean, we do not have the flooding of the desires like the river or like the flash floods in New Jersey or little bit flooding when the dishwasher breaks. Because there is a conditioning. But here, when we compare that with the ocean, there's no flooding of the ocean. You add a bucket of water to your, to some place in your house, it may flood, but adding millions and millions of gallons of water into ocean is not going to. The ocean is still, the ocean is composed, the ocean is calm. These are the qualities of, a Krishna conscious person, which Prabhupada is explaining very nicely. So, this desire, right? The desire crisscross all the time, and we have challenges controlling our desire. But we have to think that this desire is bound to happen because we live in a material world. But what happens that in this material world is temporary. Dukhala Ashwasthakam, people have spoken a lot about that. It's a sad place and it's temporary. But by being in this material world, our conditioning, by being in this material world which is temporary, our conditioning becomes such that we start liking temporary things. We very much know that, all this, job we have, the family we have, anything we have is very much temporary. But because our conditioning is such that we live in a temporary world, we start having that liking for that temporary thing because our conditioning is such. So if you take an example, this really happened. There is a cage, and in the cage there is this bird who wants to get out in the first place. So the person, the bird cage person who is really maintaining the bird is giving food to the bird in the right side of the door. And every time the bird wakes up, goes to the right side of the door, takes some food which the bird keeper provides. And after having that conditioning for 10 days, 20 days, once the bird keeper opened the door of the cage, and the bird is not leaving the cage because he is getting so much attached to the food given to him that because of this conditioning, he doesn't leave. And that is exactly the problem with, we live in a temporary world. Our desires are also temporary. But instead of knowing that this is very much temporary, we keep on thinking about this temporary desire fulfillment and try to derive momentary pleasure. So it is important to understand because desires are not going to go away, but the intent of the desire is important in this context. Because if you're getting a house, you want to leave with a bit of a space, that's okay. But as long as the intent is to invite devotees, make a temple for the lordships, the intent is good. There are examples, there are so many examples. So always the desire and intent go hand in hand. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, this is a beautiful verse which kind of encapsulates this phenomena of happiness and the desirous. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the writer of Chaitanya Charitamrita, writes so nicely. He says, Krishna Bhakta Niskama Ateva Santa Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakala Asanta. So what it means is, Krishna Bhakta means the devotees of the Lord are niskam, they don't desire anything. And they are Atheva Santa, that means they're always at peace. Because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruitive workers desire material enjoyment, which is bhukti. The bhukti in this verse means fruitive workers that desire material enjoyment. Muktis, the people who are jnanis, they desire liberation. And yogis, who desire material opulence, who wants power to control others, they are always lusty and they are never at peace. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, 500 years ago, wrote Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Asanta. That means they are not at peace. But Krishna Bhakta, he is Niskama and Ateva Santa. They are always at peace. They're thinking about Krishna, they're talking about Krishna, they're doing some service for Krishna. And at the end, they're taking Mahaprasad of Krishna and having a very peaceful sleep and having a very peaceful life. That's why you see the Krishna devotees have an element of glow in them, because they're not really caring for themselves. Because if you start caring for themselves, you have this fashion technology, you have so many things which really goes hand in hand. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in this verse truly dovetails as to what Krishna is saying. In order to get peace, we need to have desire. We need to be desireless, and once we should attempt to be desireless. And any bhukti mukti siddhi kami, they are sakali asanta. So Krishna in this verse says something very nicely. He used this word kama kami. Kama kami means desirer of the desires. The person who is desiring the desires is kama kami. So here we're focused on an individual here. So this verse is focused on an individual, and here it has been compared with river and ocean. So in this verse of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he explains so nicely about this the property of a devotee. So what is the desire and intent? Say for example, you have two friends. One person wants to invite the other person to come and play the game. But the other person knows that the exam is coming in couple of days. So because the exam is coming in a couple of days, he says, no, I won't go to play with you today. I will go and play later. So here, this person, for him, there is an exam down the corner. So there is a purpose in life. You see, there is a higher purpose for him at this time. This is a material purpose. But once we have a higher purpose and we work towards that higher purpose, whether it is to get a job or whatever, but that higher purpose is important in life. It's going to help all of us materially. But here we are not talking about this material higher purpose. If there is a higher spiritual purpose, it is going to benefit us in the long run. So the intent is very important. So the desiring to have a higher purpose is very, very important here. And in this example, this person who is not really going to play the game because the exam is coming, he knows that there is a exam. So there is a higher purpose. And with this higher purpose, he cannot go and play. Likewise, in our life, we have a higher purpose of being regulated, chanting the names of Hari, or, only take Krishna Prasad, for example, or read his scriptures, so that we have this higher purpose of life. So once this higher purpose becomes our intent, then sooner our thinking about all these other desires will go away. And then once the desires go away or reduce, we become Krishna Bhaktas. And then without desire, we become Shanta. Shanta means peace. And with peace, you gain happiness. So the secret of happiness is to gain peace. And in order to gain peace, by being bhukti, mukti, siddhi, we cannot be happy. By enjoying too much, we'll crave for more and more. And when jnana is the desire for liberation, we'll take that up in the next slide. But siddhi, the people who are trying to control others, gain powers so that they can control others. So there is also a very desire. They are actually kamis. They're lusty. They want to control one person. Tomorrow they want to control 5%. And day after tomorrow they want to control more. And that leads to, so the siddhis are also a big challenge. And the bhuktis, the material enjoyers, that's a big challenge. And let's discuss a bit about the mukti. And here in this Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahmaji is saying, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. So here, Aruhi Krishna, Param Padam Tattva. That means these people who are asking for mukti or liberation, they want to liberate themselves from this material world, but because their knowledge, their intelligence is impure, they fall down again. So this mukti is also temporary, that's one thing. And second thing, this mukti is a way to escape from the real challenges of life. So they are, in another word, they are a big escapist. So if we have to think about, there is, a lot of talk about how to liberate ourselves, how to, liberate and become mukti from this sufferings. And this is also temporary. And here Brahmaji, who created this universe on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's actually saying this so nicely, that this people who want mukti, they are lusty desires. And this lusty desire people, their intelligence is very, very impure. And they fall down. So this bhukti, mukti, siddhis, that's something which we have to avoid. So if that is what we have to avoid, what is the solution? So I have some time. So one of the Vaishnava poets, who is actually Govinda Das Kaviraj, he is the disciple of Srivas Thakur, which you see in our temple as Pancha Tattva, the rightmost side. He writes, Edhana Yovana Putra Parijana, Ithe ki achi para titire, Kamala Dala Jala, Jivana Talamala, Bhajahu Haripada Nitire. What he's saying is, this wealth, our youthfulness, our son, family members, they are not assuring us real happiness. And like in a lotus petal, the water is very shaky. The water can fall anytime. Our life is like Kamala Dala Jala, Jivana Talamala. Our life is tottering on this as water on the lotus petal. And that it can really fall off anytime. And the only way is to serve or worship the divine feet of Hari. So they say life is a preparation, death is an examination, and no one knows the examination date, right? No one knows the examination date. So in our attempt to understand the Supreme, we are doing various different practices, these processes which has been laid down by our, gurus and sadhus, and there is no guarantee that how long we're going to survive. It's very, very temporary, and the solution is right here, is to worship the divine feet of Hari, have no have minimal desire with the right intent, which is very important. And once the intent is there, it will help us in in the long run by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we will get peace. And once we get peace, we have happiness. So that's why Krishna is so beautifully explaining about this verse. And you know about Valmiki's prior life when he was a dacoit. His name was Ratnakar, and when he was, when Narad Muni came, he asked him, all these crimes you're doing, all this, things you're doing, will any of your family member take any of your karmic reactions? So he was say, yes, they will, because I'm giving them life, I'm giving them food. That's why he was thinking that he was the proprietor. But when he went and asked his family, they said, no, we are not going to take your karmic reactions. So he came back and fell down in the foot of Narad Muni, and he said, I am no more the proprietor, I am the trustee. I am like a gardener. I'm taking care of the garden. This body, the soul, we're basically, we're temporary here. We are here to take care of the garden of our life, or of our body, of our soul, and thinking that we are the proprietor and we can do anything we want with this body is a foolish thing. And then after realization, he became Valmiki. So it is very, very important for us to understand, and for that we have, some of this sacred text which gives us these finer aspects, which is so fulfilling. So with that, I'd like to conclude. But before I conclude, I wanted to show this to you. And if anybody would like to take a guess at what this picture is talking about and how this applies to this verse, we can have a bit of a discussion. So if you are looking at a picture, this picture is of an animal, and if you can unmute, it's still part of the class, because I wanted to have a bit of a interaction with some of the exalted devotees which are there today, because this picture explains a lot about our conditioning and this verse. So if you can unmute and speak as to what this is, I would like to also give you a hint if you want, and then we can end after this. This is a deer, by the way, and this is a special kind of deer, if that helps. And we are going to, yes, Prabhuji or Mataji, if you want to say something about this picture and how you would like to align it or reflect with this verse, we can have a bit of a discussion.
Is that the deer, the golden deer that Sita Mata saw?
Unfortunately, not, Mataji. But this is a special kind of deer, Mataji. This is a musk deer, if that helps.
Okay.
This is a musk deer. This is a different kind of deer. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the musk deer, if anybody wants to
add. I think the musk deer normally smell the the incense which he's holding in the navel, but he's been deviated and looking for that from where the smell is coming. So he's like running around everywhere looking for that smell. but it's inside him. I don't know whether it's right or wrong.
Yes, awesome. Very nice, Mataji. So, but just wanted to add a few, but you just guessed it, you just answered it perfectly well. So, this is a musk deer. The musk, which basically is such a costly item, people, shoot these kind of deers to get this. And so, the musk deer has this incense within, but he doesn't know that this incense is within. So he is searching everywhere. And sometimes in search for everywhere, so he gets shot by these hunters. And this musk he possesses is very nice. It's used in the fragrance industry. But he doesn't know that it is within him. Likewise, we know that Krishna is within our hearts. We know that he is there watching us as Paramatma. But instead of we knowing, we are searching for Krishna everywhere, looking for enjoyment everywhere, looking for happiness everywhere. The happiness, which is the musk in this example, is right within us. But we are seeking this happiness everywhere else. And this musk deer is a classic example of, like all of us, we are controlled by the desires. Instead of we controlling the desire is controlling us. And because of that, we are running around like this musk deer. And we are not still. We are not like the ocean. And because we are not like the ocean, we are not still. We are not devoid of disturbance. We are going around. But we know, but it is very clear that Krishna is sitting in the hearts of one and all of us. And wherever there is Krishna, there is happiness. So the happiness is very much within us, like the musk within a deer, like the heart within us. But Krishna being there, we are not doing enough to please Krishna. We are searching for him all the time, like this deer. And eventually we are getting shot by Maya. And this deer can exemplify this such a powerful, sweet words Krishna is saying. In order to control, in order to stay undisturbed, we have to be like ocean, which is not perturbed, not like the musk deer. There is a wealth of things within the musk deer, but because of his ignorance, he doesn't know. He is smelling the musk within himself, but doesn't know that. We have such beautiful hearts. We have such beautiful devotees. But sometimes when this Maya engulfs, we have this, the bamboos which are, getting lighted, and there is fire. And this material journey is very, very difficult. However, if you think that we are an ocean, and these desires, even if they come from different circles, is not going to perturb us, we are home actually. We are home because Krishna is in the hearts of all living beings, and we have an opportunity to please him. We don't have to go anywhere looking for happiness. The happiness is within us, like the musk within the deer, and we can very much control it and polish it. So with that, I'd like to end here. This is a very, very powerful verse, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about this. And if I would like to hear more about your reflection and comments in the next segment. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.